So, I'm recording this with an angrier heart than I was expecting. But on the other hand, I don't know if I ever would have gotten around to recording this and continuing on with my YouTube channel without this, so I guess I should be thanking someone who is a bit of an ass, I guess. I've been really quiet the last couple of months because on January 30th, my little sister Naomi, um, my little sister Naomi left this world of her own violation. In this particular case, I'm kind of glad that YouTube has a bit of a flag on the actual word because it's hard for me to even say that much. It's hard for me to say the words out loud. I've been struggling with it. Spent pretty much all of February monitoring my own thoughts so I don't get into that dark place. I still carry a lot of guilt and self-hate and self-anger for the fact that I labeled her as one of the quote-unquote safe ones in the family. Had a stable job. Very, very loving husband who is just crushed by this. And no one knew that she was depressed. I think I might have mentioned it before, but mental illness does run in our family, or neurodivergency, I should say, runs in our family in some form. Ranges from anxiety to bipolar to schizophrenia to paranoia. It ranges basically to depression. Like, that's the most common one, really, among us, but it ranges. At most, I've suspected in the past that maybe Naomi has anxiety stuff, possibly, but we kind of all thought of her as one of the lucky ones in our family that didn't have crippling neurodivergent stuff, basically. And we were wrong. She told her husband about the depression that she was feeling and the suicidal ideations that she was having around October, November-ish. And he did everything he could to try to help her. She asked that he not share it with us, with the family. And I can understand why. Because we all love each other, but we all also talk. You know what I mean? Like, if any friends of ours shares any type of secrets, we don't share those secrets with anyone. You know what I mean? But like when it's family, we tend to share information. And the downside of that is, even if we don't tell the person that we have information on that we have information on them, we all are so, in my opinion, deeply spiritually connected that we can tell when someone knows something that we didn't tell them, basically. So I can understand why she asked that, since she was going through a period where I think everyone in our family has gone through, of not wanting to acknowledge, not wanting to get on medication, because the reality of it is, for our family in particular, it really truly is a matter of chemical imbalances. It is completely genetic for us. My mom's family has a long history of mental health issues that have a wide range as well. Dad's side of the family is typically more along the lines of depression. But as I said, the reality of it is a chemical imbalance for us. And what that means is that we have to be on medication in most cases to help alleviate our symptoms. Naomi was very high functioning despite the pain that she was in. No one would have ever guessed. She was one of those ones where everyone always says, I wouldn't have ever guessed it. I had no idea. Literally, the only sign that I can possibly think of is when she deleted her Facebook account, which I was worried at that time. I actually specifically went out to the movies with her directly after to kind of low key check in on her. And even then, at the time, I thought she was okay. I She told me that she was trying to quit smoking, and I was just like, oh, okay, maybe that's just an extra stressor for her that she doesn't want to deal with while she's trying to quit smoking. I still don't know if that had anything to do with how she was feeling. I don't know anything because I didn't know. And that sucks. And like I said, I still carry a lot of self-hate and guilt over not knowing. Largely because I'm so open here about my struggles. And I talk about my experiences so much with my other sisters who are deeply neurodivergent, who have anxiety or bipolar or or depression or whatever. But not with Naomi. I messed up with Naomi, I feel like. I was even though she was the one who saw me, who took me and who picked me up from my first ever stay at the hospital because of how bad my depression was in 2013. Despite that, Naomi was one of the few siblings that I never talked about my shit with. Because, as dumb as it sounds, I was afraid that if I talked about it, then maybe she would realize that she's going through something similar. And I say that because, like I said, she was very high functioning. I think that in a lot of ways, our family in particular is more apt to ignoring or not realizing what the cause of our issues are because we've gotten something from our mom. I think I've talked about it before, but my mama has this supernatural ability to just move past and ignore whatever emotional shit is happening and going down with her at that moment in time. It's a ridiculously high functioning ability that she utilizes all the time, for better or for worse. I personally think that we all have some level of it to the point where it's harder in most cases for people to see signs in us. When I got depressed, I showed very, very obvious signs in hindsight. I know that my other sisters typically show pretty obvious signs. But I should have known better, and I should have known that not all of us would. I should have known better than to think, oh, if she's not showing signs, then she's not thinking about it. And if she's not thinking about it, it's better not to even bring it up in case she starts thinking about it and it starts to become an issue. Because sometimes thinking about how shitty you're feeling can make that worse. No. It wasn't a logical thought process. And every day, I wonder if I had just talked about what I went through more, if I had just discussed more about my feelings on medications, would she have been so hesitant to get help? Would she have pushed back with her husband so much in regards to getting help? Would she have gotten help? Would she still be here? It's not logical. I know that. But it doesn't. But knowing that it's not necessarily logical doesn't stop me from wondering. Doesn't stop me from imagining. Sure as hell doesn't stop it from hurting less. I haven't really wanted to do any type of drawing or anything like that, anything creative, for months. It's only in the last couple weeks or so that I've started to feel the desire to draw again. And I'm still struggling to allow myself to do so because I feel guilty for being alive. I'm trying to push myself, though, to live as I've been. And I think this is the hardest part. The hardest part is that I've been in that split-second decision mindset before of wanting to just exit the world. And I know that when you're in that mindset, the last thing you want is to be hurting the ones you love. The last thing you're thinking about is, I hope no one enjoys their life. I hope no one gets happiness from the things that they love because I'm gone. So I knew Naomi wouldn't want this. To be honest, she would be pretty fucking pissed. Like, what the fuck, you do such cool shit, Stephanie, but you're sitting around on your ass? Don't blame me for that shit. I can literally hear her saying that in her voice. Probably with slightly less cussing, because she's in a more public facing thing than, like, she was a mail carrier, so, like, she was in a much more, I don't know, government official type position. So she actually curses less now than I do. Used to not be the case, but it is now. And yeah, I started this recording pretty heated and pretty angry. I started this recording a month ago, and it was coming from a place. It was started and sparked because of a relative on my mom's side of the family who I felt was using and creating Naomi's death for her own benefit. And I was so angry about it, so frustrated at the hypocrisy of that person that I couldn't stay silent anymore. I'm editing and ending this video and posting this video with sadness and a vague whisper of a hope that it will be healing for me in the end. Every day since Naomi's passing, there hasn't been a single day where I haven't thought of her. I think about her when I wake up. A lot of times I think about her when I go to bed. I can never know. I will never know what she was thinking. I will never truly know if me saying something, if me sharing my struggles would have helped. I may never know that any sisterly ribbing that I've done, that I had been doing in the months preceding her exit of this world, I will never know if any of that stuck with her. It's scary to think that it did, but as someone who has spent a decade now dealing with depression on some level, I know from experience that logically knowing that someone is teasing you doesn't always take away the hurt that the words cause. And I'll never know how much of an impact my words or lack of words has done. What I do know, and what I do believe with every fiber of my being, is that at the end of the day, there are more Naomis out there. It angers me and saddens me to think that. But there are more Naomis out there who are latching on to the idea that they can just push through it without proper tools. Who do not show outwardly the signs. Who are so much more likely not to plan things out, not to leave a suicide note, but who are more likely to get flooded with those thoughts of, why not do it just right now? What's the point of holding off? What can I use to right this moment? I know there are more Naomis like that. I know there have already been other Naomis that I just don't know about. And the root source of that is the fact that we put behind incredibly important self-help tools. We place them behind this idea that you have to go to therapy to get them. You have to go to therapy to learn mental mapping. You have to go to therapy to learn the line between ideation and actualization. And it's utter crap. Because what I've realized in talking to my older sisters is that one of the most basic tools that you get on your first therapy session if you talk about how you're depressed and how you want to kill yourself is what's called mindfulness meditation, where you learn to recognize your thoughts and your feelings, and you learn how to distance yourself from your own thoughts when you need to, when you learn to recognize your own toxic thoughts for exactly the situation that my sister was in. It's such a basic thing, such a basic exercise, but it's not the exercise that pops up when you search, what can I do when I'm depressed? How to stop thoughts of killing myself. You know what is? The first 3 things that pop up is talk to someone, see a therapist, and call a hotline. So here's what I'm going to do. In addition to a few of the national United States suicide prevention hotlines, and in addition to an article about how to bring up suicidal ideation to your friends and family, and how you can help them understand how they can help you. In addition to that, I'm going to try to find 2 articles to link in the description below. One with comprehensive steps to mindfulness meditation, and the other to how it can be applied, how the results can be applied to help give you the time you need to reach out to someone. Even if your depression is currently under control, even if right now you have only experienced ideation and have never felt actual true temptation when it comes to taking your life, I encourage you and I implore you to look at those 2 articles if you have never heard of mindfulness meditation before. If my first session with my first therapist when I was 18 hadn't walked me through this exercise and hadn't taught me and talked me through how it's meant to be applied, if I didn't have that tool under my belt, I would have followed Naomi within a couple weeks. Those tools are the only reason I was able to recognize in myself the warning signs of me going from ideation to actualization. Again, I believe with every fiber of my being that it is a tragedy that this is not something that is publicly, readily, easily available. Because if you don't know that you're about to enter a headspace where you are likely to take that step, how are you going to know to reach out? It's a lot quicker of a leap than we like to acknowledge to go between I'm feeling sad, I don't feel like life is worth living. Those are just the beginnings. And it takes just a split second to go from that to what would I use to I'm going to do it right now. We like to think that it takes days or months or weeks, but that's not always the case. That's not always the case. So again, I will be linking national suicide hotline numbers, articles on how to bring up this topic with a trusted family and friend, an article on the steps and the process of mindfulness meditation, and an article on how to apply it to prevent taking that step. Thank you for listening to me, if you've listened this far. I know it can be a lot when you have some random stranger talking about their dead sister, but I do think, I hope, really, more than anything else, like I said, it's a whisper of a hope at this point, that this will be a step to my healing. And I hope that my step to healing helps others. Thank you. You guys have a safe one.